There's at least one person that's gonna look at that title and go, sounds fake, but I assure you, I wish it was fake. So hi, howdy, those of you who don't see the community posts on my channel are probably wondering what happened to my upload schedule. The answer is complicated dentistry and me being too stubborn for my own good. Thanks to the power of painkillers, this is the first time in a couple of weeks that I've conclusively been able to talk for a while without my whole jaw complaining, so let me finally explain. Obviously, this is a dental work story, so if you're like I was about a year ago and get hives at the mere mention of dentists and their work, proceed with caution. There's a too long didn't watch at the end if you want to skip the whole story. Back in the last week or so of November, I had some dental work done that included having a temporary crown put on one of my bottom molars. This was okay, even though the temporary crown was very high and extremely noticeable and I had to eat around it for a while. The reason it was okay, I think, is because it wasn't cemented to my tooth, so there was a bit of wiggle room there. It was still uncomfortable, but not for the most part debilitating. However, when mid-December rolled around and it came time to put the permanent crown on, even though it was also too high, especially at first, I had gotten used to chewing and talking around an even taller crown. So I thought it was in fact better, and perfectly fine to try to chew on. But because it was both still too high and cemented to my tooth, there was no shock absorption there aside from the ligament in said tooth. So I ended up, yes, spraining a tooth ligament because I was biting on it too hard. For like 2 weeks. So I went in for a bite adjustment and it was better. For a while. Turns out it was still too high, and I was still trying to adjust my bite back to normal after the really high temporary crown. Now there are two things that complicated the next several weeks of trying to figure out what in the blue blazes was wrong with my jaw. The first had to do with circumstances outside of my control. So way back in 2019, in the before times, I broke a wisdom tooth on a popcorn kernel, and ended up getting all 4 wisdom teeth removed at the same time. That was a bad time for all sorts of reasons, but the reason it's relevant to what's been happening in December is that one of those wisdom teeth was a little too close to the nerve in that side of my mouth, same side as the molar that now has a cap on it. So that nerve is permanently a little bit wonky. Doesn't usually affect me day to day anymore aside from a tiny, mostly numb patch that I can find if I floss or brush my teeth just wrong. The ligament that I bruised? Yeah, you know how bruises tend to swell? Like, you get an egg on your head if you bonk it on something? Well, that bruised ligament started recruiting that nerve into the action as well, which meant my whole jaw started seizing up and being very displeased with me if I so much as yawned wrong, or even talked for any length of time. If you've never had nerve pain in your face before, it feels like someone shoving an ice-cold metal straw through your jaw and/or up into your temple. It was pretty debilitating there for a few days, and my jaw muscles are still sore a week later. Which brings me to the other thing, which was entirely within my control, but I didn't realize it until I had it pointed out to me. Multiple times. I didn't realize I should be taking painkillers for this. You might be laughing. Like, really? It's in the name, that's what they're there for. And you would be right. And I was intermittently taking ibuprofen when it got bad, but only when it got bad. And I just didn't know that's not how you're supposed to do it. I, until last week, had never been told that the reason you're supposed to take painkillers after, say, surgeries and whatnot, is to keep the swelling from making things worse. Which makes logical sense if you point it out that way, but my stubborn thought, well, how will I know if it's better if I don't know when it stops hurting? What if the painkillers are masking a bigger problem? For the record, I would not do that after a major surgery, because after those you're usually given a schedule to stick to regarding pain management. I've never seen a dentist do this except after my wisdom tooth debacle. So, I have a schedule for my pain meds and I'm now on bite adjustment number 3, which seems to be sticking this time. I'm on the mend, finally, as evidenced by this video, but that ligament is definitely, unfortunately, still bruised. To say nothing of my jaw muscles being, we'll call it, tender. This is most likely going to take longer than I would like to actually heal, which is why Grifters is still in a bit of limbo. I can make this video because normal speech isn't too hard on my voice, though even then, there appears to be a limit, but the character voices are much, much more likely to irritate the whole situation. And oddly enough, it's probably not the Dunmer I'd have an issue with, but instead Syrah, Atlug, and Cactus, because they all involve holding my jaw in ways I normally don't. This is especially a problem if I'm trying to record for an hour at a stretch, which is usually what happens when I have any kind of script that involves either of the Dunmer, especially if they're in the same room, because I have to pay very close attention to the differences in their accents. Which is part of why, if you didn't see, I'm switching to an every other week schedule for a while. I don't know how long this is going to take to heal, and I don't want to make it even worse by pushing it, so production speed is gonna slow down a lot, just so that I can record little bits at a time now that I've gotten things more under control. Too long didn't watch, I sprained a tooth ligament on the same side of my mouth as a wonky jaw nerve, and had to have 3 bite adjustments and a lesson in pain management before it finally started to get better. The silver lining of all of this is that I think I'm no longer afraid of dentists, and am, in theory, practicing being patient with myself. It's not going especially well. Episodes will be slower to come out than they have been, but as long as I don't do anything else stupid, they will be coming out eventually. In the meantime, keep on keeping on, y'all. Take care of yourselves, and don't be afraid to be wrong sometimes. See you when I see you.